through some of the
Careful.
feelings, but I also think writing it out is a good way to remind myself of what I lived through and why I'll never go through something like that again. My name's Maxwell. I'm 37 now, and I live in Western North Carolina. This story's about my ex wife, how we met, the red flags I ignored, the downfall of our marriage, and how I caught her cheating with our neighbor. I'm not going to lie to you, it still stings when I think about how far I let things go. But at least now I can look back with a clear head and know I'm better off. Let me start from the beginning. How we met. I met my ex wife, Lisa, at church of all places. Not even my regular church either. I was visiting my mom's church on Mother's Day one year. I think it was 2013. I wanted to surprise her. My own church is a good 30 minutes away, but I figured showing up to her home church would mean something, and it did. Lisa was singing on the praise team. I noticed her right away. She had this warm, easygoing energy, like she knew everybody in the room and had nothing to prove. Later after the service, my mom introduced us in the fellowship hall. We chatted for a little while, and I ended up staying for lunch with her and some others. Lisa and I exchanged numbers that day, and I texted her before I even pulled into my driveway. She was cute, funny, and she seemed grounded, or at least I thought she was. The dating phase. We dated for about 2.5 years before getting married. At first, it was good. She wasn't perfect, but then again, who is? We went out to eat a lot, talked about future dreams, and did weekend trips to the mountains. But one thing I noticed early on was her relationship with alcohol. She didn't seem to know when to stop drinking. The first few times I brushed it off. I figured we were all young once, and maybe she just needed someone stable around to help her slow down. The first time I really got a glimpse of what I was dealing with was when she came to my place after a night out with her friends. She was trashed, not tipsy, trashed, slurring her words, crying, laughing, throwing up in the driveway. I helped her inside, cleaned her up, and held her hair while she threw up again. The next morning, she cried and apologized, told me she was embarrassed and said she was trying to get better, said drinking helped numb her anxiety, but that it had gotten out of hand. I appreciated the honesty, and honestly, I respected that she seemed to want to change. From then on, we had a few tough talks. I told her I couldn't build a life with someone who drank like that. She said she understood. She started therapy and even went to a couple AA meetings. I went to a few with her. It wasn't a smooth road, but I really thought we were making progress. So when she told me she hadn't had a drink in over a year, I believed her. We got married in the spring of 2016, the first couple years of marriage. Our first year was probably the best. We were growing as a couple, praying together at night, taking turns cooking, saving up to buy a house. She was working as a school bus driver for the local high school, and I had just gotten promoted to supervisor at my job in a distribution center. When Lisa wasn't drinking, she was actually a really loving and thoughtful person. She'd leave little notes in my lunchbox. She'd plan little date nights at home. I think I fell deeper in love with the sober version of her, and I thought that meant everything was going to be okay. But it wasn't, and looking back, the signs were there before we even said, I do. The relapse. It started subtle. Around late 2018, I noticed a change in her behavior. She was more irritable, sometimes overly talkative when she got home from work, like she was trying to fill the air. Other times, she'd come in and go straight to the bedroom without so much as a kiss. I started getting the feeling she was hiding something. Then one morning, I kissed her goodbye before heading to work, and I noticed her breath smelled off. Not bad, just strange, almost sweet in a way that made my stomach turn. I said nothing at the time, but the next morning I paid attention. Same smell. Then I watched her pour her coffee, and when she turned around, I took a quick look in the trash and saw a mini liquor bottle hidden under a crumpled paper towel. That night, I confronted her. At first, she tried to laugh it off, said I was imagining things, but then she broke down crying. She said she'd been so stressed about work, about waking up early, dealing with rude teenagers, long routes, and she said she just wanted something to take the edge off. She admitted she'd been putting whiskey in her coffee in the mornings and had even bought a little flask to sneak a sip during her lunch break. I was disgusted, not just because she lied, but because she was drinking on the job while responsible for kids. I told her flat out, either you quit that job and start going back to meetings, or I'm out. She agreed. She quit the job, went back to meetings. I started going with her again. For a little while, I thought we were back on track, but I guess once someone makes peace with lying, they just get better at it. The affair. It was a Friday afternoon. I got off work a little early and decided to surprise Lisa. I stopped and picked up dinner, planning to spend a quiet evening with her. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something weird. Our neighbor's car was parked just a few feet away in our yard. At first, I thought maybe he'd stop by to borrow something. But when I walked in the house, it was dead quiet. Too quiet. I'll never forget what I saw when I walked into the bedroom. There they were, my wife and the damn neighbor, naked, drunk. Didn't even hear me come in. I lost it. I didn't hit anyone, but I sure as hell made noise, shouted, slammed doors. The neighbor tried to get up and explain, like I wanted to hear it. I told him to get the hell out of my house before I laid him out. He grabbed his clothes and ran. Lisa, meanwhile, just sat there crying, trying to cover herself up, still reeking of alcohol. I told her right then and there it was over. She begged, cried, said she didn't even know how it happened, said they were just hanging out, had a drink, and one thing led to another. Then she had the nerve to tell me that everyone cheats and that it's just something couples go through, that if we really loved each other, we'd work through it. I was floored. She told me people mess up, but people who made vows in a church don't just throw in the towel. That line made me laugh, like she hadn't just trampled all over those same vows. I told her she made her bed. She could lie in it. I packed a bag that night and stayed with my cousin. Filed for divorce 2 days later. Aftermath. She tried to reach out a few times. At first, it was just to talk. Then she started showing up at my cousin's house. Once she even left a card on my windshield talking about our journey and how I couldn't just let her spiral. But I did let her spiral because it wasn't my job to hold up someone who was dead set on dragging me down with them. The divorce was finalized in under 4 months. No kids, no shared property. I gave her the car since I already had my truck, and she moved into this raggedy house her grandfather left her years ago. Last I heard, she lives there with a bunch of cats, some inside, some outside. Still drinks heavy, probably worse now. A buddy of mine said she's lost weight and looks like she hasn't slept in days. And honestly, I don't feel bad. I used to ask myself if I gave up too early, if I could have helped her more. But the truth is, she showed me who she was during our dating phase. The crying drunk episodes, the excuses, the lying. I just chose to ignore it. I thought love meant sticking it out. I thought being a good man meant being patient while someone figured themselves out. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's self-destruction. Final thoughts. If there's one thing I'd tell any man watching your channel, it's this. Don't ignore the early signs. If she's a liar when you're dating, she'll be a liar when you're married. If she blames her mistakes on stress or alcohol instead of taking real responsibility, it's only a matter of time before that blows up in your face. I wasted years trying to fix someone who didn't want to be fixed. I let myself be manipulated by sweet words and promises that never meant anything. And I let myself be blindsided when, deep down, I already knew how it would end. But I'm done feeling ashamed of being fooled. I've learned, healed, and moved on. Thanks for reading this if you made it this far, and thank you for giving guys like me a place to share our stories. This channel reminds us that we're not alone, and that there's strength in walking away. Sincerely, Maxwell. Part 2. More madness from my marriage and what her mother told me after the divorce. Hey again, it's Maxwell. Thanks for reading my first email. I didn't think it would feel as good as it did to get that off my chest, but writing it out gave me some real clarity. I've been reflecting a lot since I hit send on that first message. Thought I was finished with the story, but the truth is, there were things I left out. Crazy situations that I think I buried just to keep moving forward. But after hearing other men share their full stories on your channel, I figured I'd write back and lay it all out. This second email is for anyone out there who, like me, ignores signs during the relationship. It's also for any man who's dealing with a woman battling addiction and thinking maybe he can love her out of it. You can't, and I've got the scars to prove it. The forgotten incidents. The drinking never stopped. Looking back now, I'm convinced Lisa never really stopped drinking. She just got sneakier. There were a handful of events that I brushed off or made excuses for, but now I see it for what it was. Consistent, manipulative, alcohol-fueled behavior that I tried to sweep under the rug. Let me take you back. The car wreck. This one should have been a wake-up call. It was a Saturday in August, a few years into our marriage. I was out fishing with my brother. Around 2:30 p.m., I got a call from Lisa. She sounded panicked. She said she'd been in a car accident a few miles from the house, and she needed me to come right away. When I got there, she was standing on the sidewalk next to a stop sign, crying. The car, our only car at the time, was wrapped halfway around a telephone pole. Airbags deployed, windshield cracked, bumper in pieces. There were 2 cops on the scene. I remember the look one of them gave me, like he'd seen this 100 times before. Lisa kept saying the brakes locked up. She insisted it wasn't her fault, said she had been coming back from the grocery store and swerved to avoid a dog. But the thing was, there were no groceries in the car, not even a receipt. I asked her, point blank, "Had you been drinking?" She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "No, Max, I promise. I've been good." They didn't do a sobriety test, don't ask me why, but they let her go since no one else was hurt. The insurance company covered some of the damages, but we had to scrape together a few grand for a down payment on a used car. That night, she clung to me in bed and cried like a child. Told me she was scared, she almost died. I held her because I still loved her, but in the back of my mind, something felt wrong. I should have listened to that voice. Thanksgiving with her friends. Another time was during Thanksgiving. We were invited to a dinner with some of Lisa's old high school friends. I didn't want to go, to be honest, but she begged me to show up and just try to be social. We get there, and I immediately notice how loose everyone is. Glasses of wine already half empty. Whiskey on the counter. Empty bottles lined up like trophies. One of her friends offered me a beer, and I declined. Lisa was laughing loud, louder than usual, touching my arm a lot, almost like she was trying to keep me distracted. Her breath smelled sweet, again with that telltale smell I'd come to recognize. She pulled me aside at one point and said, "Babe, you're being kind of stiff. Can you not embarrass me tonight?" That line stung. I said, "Lisa, have you been drinking?" She rolled her eyes. "It's 1 glass. It's a holiday. Relax." That night, we got into a fight in the car. She called me controlling, said I made her feel like a child. I dropped it because I didn't want to ruin Thanksgiving. But again, there it was, a clear sign. She never quit drinking. She just quit being open about it. The crying in the shower. I'll never forget this one. It was a Tuesday night. I got home from work a little late, and I heard the water running upstairs. I figured Lisa was taking a long shower, but when I got up there, I realized something wasn't right. The shower had been running for almost 40 minutes. I knocked on the door. No response. I opened it, and there she was, sitting on the floor of the tub, fully clothed, water pouring down over her, crying uncontrollably. Bottles of shampoo were knocked over. I could smell vodka in the steam. I turned off the water, helped her up, wrapped her in a towel, and sat her on the edge of the bed. She kept repeating, "I can't do this. I'm tired. I'm tired." I asked her if she wanted to go to the hospital. She screamed no, said she just needed sleep. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. And me? I acted like I didn't see what I saw. That's what it's like living with an addict. You learn to survive by ignoring the obvious. The call from her mother. After the divorce, I thought I was finally done with all of it. I moved back into my old apartment, went no contact, focused on work, got back into shape, even started going to a men's Bible study again. Then one Sunday morning, out of nowhere, I got a call from Lisa's mother, Miss Irene. Now, let me tell you about her. Miss Irene is one of those sweet Southern women who bakes pies for the whole church and ends every sentence with, "Bless your heart." I always liked her, even when things were going downhill. She was kind and had a good heart, but she always saw Lisa through rose-colored glasses. When I picked up, I heard her voice trembling. "Maxwell, baby, I know this is unexpected, but I need to ask you something." I braced myself. "Yes, ma'am." She sighed. "Lisa's not doing well. I stopped by the house today, and it's a mess. I mean, Max, it's bad. She's barely coherent. The place smells like cat piss and liquor. She's been missing meetings. Won't answer the door for anyone but me." I stayed quiet. What was I supposed to say? Then came the line that almost made me hang up. "As long as y'all are both still alive, she's still your wife in God's eyes. I'm asking you to please go talk to her. Maybe she'll listen to you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Miss Irene," I said slowly, "I'm sorry she's struggling, truly, but I can't fix her. I tried for years. She cheated. She lied. She drank through our whole marriage. I gave her chance after chance. You know that." She sniffled. "I do, baby. I do. But this ain't about marriage anymore. This is about saving her life. She's going to die in that house if somebody doesn't do something." That hit me in the chest. But then I remembered all the times I tried to do something. I said, "I already tried to save her, Miss Irene. I nearly drowned doing it, and all she did was pull me down with her." There was silence on the line. She finally said, "I don't want to bury my child." I told her, "Then she's got to want to live, and right now, she doesn't. And you can't make her." We said our goodbyes. I could feel how much pain she was in. But I couldn't go back, not even for her mother. That night I cried, not for Lisa, but for Miss Irene. For all the people addiction hurts beyond the addict themselves. The truth about loving an addict. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that loving an addict feels like being tied to a sinking ship. At first, you think you're strong enough to pull them up. Then the waves get higher, the weight gets heavier, and suddenly you're gasping for air, wondering how you got so deep. Lisa made me question my worth. She made me feel like my expectations were unrealistic, like asking her not to drink was cruel, like being faithful was some outdated fairy tale. But the truth is, I wasn't asking for perfection. I was asking for partnership. I just wanted a teammate, someone I could count on, someone who didn't need a bottle to survive the day. And when I didn't get that, I lied to myself and said maybe I was the problem. Never again. Moving forward. It's been over 2 years since the divorce was finalized. I've dated a little, but I'm not rushing anything. I've learned how to enjoy my peace. I go fishing. I work out. I cook real meals. I laugh more now than I did the whole time I was married. I don't hate Lisa. I just don't carry her anymore. I pray she finds peace. I do. But whether she does or not, I found mine. Thanks again for giving guys like me the space to speak. You're doing more good than you probably realize. Until next time.